once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin and I'm here tonight with Justin. How you doing, Jazz?
I am good, Gav. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Good. So today we're going to do something a little bit different, I guess. We're going to talk about the Man City obviously suing the Premier League, because I think that's something big that we've kind of got to discuss. Autocratic, totalitarian rulers of a despot state don't like democracy. I mean, who'd have been able to call that? We'll chat over a few things, do a little season review too. So let's start with this one though, Jazz. There was the vote on VAR with the Premier League today. Wolves obviously are the ones who called for the vote to end VAR, or to vote on ending VAR, I should say. Wolves voted in favour of their own motion, which is no surprise. All the other 19 clubs voted to keep VAR. I'm not surprised that they voted to keep it. Maybe I'm a little surprised at 19-1. I'm not sure. Are you surprised it went that way, or do you think that this was such a token vote that this was always the way it was going to go?
No, I am actually a bit surprised. I did not expect it to go 19-1. We all knew what way Wolves were going to vote, of course, because it's, their movement. But I did expect a handful of other clubs that felt, wronged. I kind of expected Arsenal to go against it, if I'm being honest. But I think there's a lot of money in, kind of aligning with what PGMOL. Not money. I'm not implying bribery. Sorry, that's not the right way to say it. But I do think there's, some leniency there in just voting the status quo, right?
Yeah, I think this was never a serious vote, right? And what I mean by that is I don't mean that the intent behind the vote wasn't a serious intent. I don't mean that this isn't important. What I mean is that I don't think there was ever a serious chance that VAR was going to be scrapped. I don't think that's what this was about at all. This was clubs, Wolves obviously especially, but I think it was clubs really with a shot across the bow of PGMOL to say, look, get your shit together, because although we accept this is here to stay, it can't carry on like this.
See, and it would have been better if it was like, I don't know.
Yeah, if it was 15-5, say.
Yeah,
14-6.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. Quick maths. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much this is gonna really like imprint on PGMOL with regards to VAR, considering the vote was 19-1. But I am a little bit disappointed. I am somebody that I backed VAR from the beginning. VAR. I know people have problems with saying it VAR. So I did back VAR from the beginning, but I honestly I hate the way it's implemented, and I wished Arsenal voted against. I do. At this point, I know you do. But
obviously, I've hated it from the beginning. I didn't want it to come in. I never saw how it can work, and I still don't see any way it can work. I do accept that it's here to stay, though. I mean, I don't think it's gonna change the way they implement it. Will it change? I don't know. The thing is, I just don't.
But mate, doesn't it seem like PGMOL, they want it to go away, right? That's what they're doing. It's planned obsolescence, basically. No, that's not right.
I don't know. I think first off, I think you've got an intrinsic problem. Now we're getting into VAR rather than the vote, but I think you've got an intrinsic problem where we only want to use it for clear and obvious errors, and we want to set the bar high about where it comes in, which is right. But then it's at the same time it's changing the way refs are reffing on the field, so they're not giving things with a view of it going to VAR and going to the TV. But then if you're raising the bar to the point where half the stuff isn't going to be looked at, then the referees are just basically ignoring decisions that they should be giving. And I think that's one part of it. There's a lot of different problems to this. I think you're going to see a few changes in it over the next couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised if we started miking refs up like they do in the NFL, so that when the decisions are being made, there is maybe a description of either what is being looked at. I know they've already started with the screens with, VAR check, handball, and then the player it's on, or foul and the player it's on, to try and give you a little bit more in the stadium, because at first you didn't even know check was going on. So they have moved that on. So I think the communication side of it is going to change. I don't know if it will be the ref, the fourth official, or someone else, but I do think there'll be more communication. I don't know what else you can do, because, they're saying that one of the things was the bar needs to be higher for intervention, yet half of the problem people seem to have with it is that they don't interfere enough. Yet, if you start interfering more, games that are already taking 105 minutes to complete are going to take 120 minutes to complete. My problem with it is that I just don't think there's a way that it can work. So I think whatever changes you put in, we're just literally causing another set of issues.
Yeah, and when you say it like that, I mean, it's hard to argue. I'd like to see some things change, like in the game, in the way it's refereed. But a lot of these calls, like we've talked about in the past, they're, I mean, I don't know. It's down to each individual ref.
I mean, is the answer just with it to basically take away what they can look at? So at the minute, obviously, the scope is it can look at anything, right? Yeah. But should the scope now be, okay, they can only go and look at something like an offside, which is a definitive yes or no. Or maybe you can look at a goal, but you can only look at the last 5 passes in the move, whatever. So we're not going back a minute before the goal scored to find an offside. Is there an answer like that somewhere in it where we can kind of limit the scope of what it actually looks at? Because, at the end of the day, they're still getting these decisions wrong, even with VAR. I accept that there's a higher proportion getting right. My argument is that the proportion isn't high enough to basically warrant its existence. But is that the thing? Is it time to basically narrow the scope of what they can look at?
I don't think that's a bad idea, Gaff. I would be acceptable of VAR that only looks at like dangerous play, right? So
yeah, I mean that's the counter to what I propose. There is that I do agree with you with this. I think what needs to be looked at are the dangerous tackles, basically. Yeah. But when you've got a scenario like, let's say, Kovacic against us, where he didn't get sent off for 2 tackles that were borderline reds. I think they were both red card tackles, and he gets a yellow in one and then gets waved off on the other one. I mean, is the way around that for the VAR to get in the ref's ear and say, hey, this was a tackle by so-and-so on so-and-so. We think it's close. Did you see it? And then if the ref says, I saw it, fine, we all move on. If the ref says I doesn't, then you go to the camera.
Give me that baseline again.
So basically, if the
I'm sorry, I just don't want to say the wrong thing.
No, it's fine. But if the ref sees it and makes a decision, right? So like the ref saw both of those tackles by Kovacic. He just decided that one was a yellow and he wasn't going to interfere with the game by sending him off for the second one, right?
Right.
So he saw that. So he can then, so the VAR says, did you see it? And he says, yes, I saw it. I've made a decision, and we all move on. If there's one that he actually doesn't see, they say, hey, this was a tackle here. The foot went up like at knee height. Did you see it? And he says, well, actually, no, that's not what I saw from my angle. Then you send him to the camera. Is that kind of a bar? Like, I'm just trying to think of a way we can change the bar here.
Yeah, I think if VAR ended up just VAR, again, for people that don't like that, I think if VAR ended up just being about player safety, like dangerous plays and injuries and injury prevention, of course, I think I could still get behind it its existence. It's basically its job is not to enforce rules of the game, per se, all rules, but it's there to protect the players. I think there's still a world where it could exist, where I'd like it to exist.
You got to be clear about this up front, though, right? Like you can't.
Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah.
You know, I think part of the problem here as well, and this is part of the problem with or for, whichever way you want to look at it, referees as well, in that we have these remits that come in, right? At the start of the season, we're going to really crack down on managers coming outside their technical area and show yellow cards. And for the first 3 games, we have 5 yellow cards to managers, and then it goes away. And then there'll be an edict that will come out in November where you've already played 8 games each, 9 games each. And we'll have this thing where, okay, now we're going to let everyone play. And all of a sudden, something that was a foul in October now isn't a foul at the end of November. And then by the time we get to January, that edict's gone away. So now we're back to giving fouls for all sorts of silly stuff. But now we're saying, okay, we're going to raise the bar for what is a tackle from behind and what is a tackle from the side, right? We're going to move the angle a little bit. And then for a month, we'll have, he was coming in from the side, so we're going to allow that. And then that will go back again. I mean, this is the problem. We are not getting a clear set of rules for the entire season. And I think you can change things, but you should be doing it in the off season. You shouldn't be doing it in October. And I think that's part of the frustration with all of this.
Yeah, I agree. Inconsistency is like the biggest issue, right? But I also think that there is a lot that they could do to protect more players. Like a lot they could do. I
think the majority of people are interested in that, though, Juz. That would be my counter argument to it. I just don't think most people care. I think people care more about the goal that was 6 inches offside that went against their team than Bukayo Saka getting chopped in half by a big centre half on the halfway line.
I mean, you're right about that, Gaff. But I mean, I think the fact of the matter is that protecting the players right now, especially with like such a heavy schedule that they all have, I think protecting the player is, should be top priority. And it's not. It's about sketchy ass handballs in the box that nobody saw, and ridiculous offsides by 4 millimeters.
And fans, managers, and owners are also very disingenuous, right? Like, let's be honest. People always say we want consistency, we want results to be fair, and it's not true. That is not what anybody wants. What everyone wants is for all the decisions to go for their team. That is what everyone wants. That's what fans want. That's what managers want. It's what owners want. Nottingham Forest, Wolves, because Forest had a go as well. Neither of those teams were complaining because there were decisions and VAR mistakes that could have gone, that have been made. They were complaining because they went against their team. They were not complaining at the ones they got. They're only complaining about the ones that go against them. I don't know how you change that, because I don't think in football that will ever change. I think people are just disingenuous, basically, about what they want. And I think maybe they convince themselves a bit. And it's funny because we're going to talk about Manchester City next. And I think we're in the same situation with Manchester City about this, where their fans, their owners and stuff are disingenuous about what they actually want. Like, none of them believe that what they're doing is fair. They're just trying to justify it. And I think that's where we are with VAR. Like, we do not want decisions to be correct, or not. I'm not going to say we don't want it. We don't care if decisions are correct. We don't care if decisions are fair. All we want is for them to go to our team. And I think people need to admit that. And until they do, we're just going around in circles.
Mate, I mean, I think you're right to a degree, and I think there is a large proportion, most fans, really, that feel that way.
But I feel that way. I couldn't give a damn what happens at Wolves versus Nottingham Forest. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. Get as many of them wrong as you want. When Spurs get an offside goal given against them and they miss it, I think it's funny when VAR misses it. Now, when it happens against us, then it's a travesty, right?
Spurs.
So, I mean, I will openly admit it. I don't give a fuck about them getting this call right and that call right. I don't care. Like, they're not getting most of them right, but that's not the point. Like, we just want things to go our way.
I care.
No,
I do. I actually do.
Don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you want penalties given to us for all sorts of things.
When I watch when I watch like an egregious referee decision on like a totally neutral game, let's call I don't know, Everton against fucking
Bournemouth, say
Brighton.
Bournemouth, because no one cares
Brighton.
about Bournemouth.
Bournemouth. Okay, yeah. If there's some kind of egregious call that like they got wrong, even when like it went to VAR and VAR is still like, yeah, it bothers me, Gaff. It does.
For about 3 seconds, and then you move on. I don't know. I just don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of either of those clubs. I'm not going to like petition in the streets. I'm not going to fly to Brighton.
But that's my point. Like, if you're not going to do that, then I just think it's disingenuous. I think people's motives are disingenuous about it, and I think that's part of the problem with it. And I don't even know if people knew that. I genuinely think a lot of these people, when they were calling for VAR to come in, really believed that what they wanted was the correct decision. But one of mine of Bernard Whammer's mates, right, Sunil, big West Ham fan, complete fucking lunatic. But he wanted VAR to come in, and all he wants is decisions to be fair and correct, right? Until one of them goes against West Ham that is fair and correct, but he sees the other way, right? They had that penalty. Do you remember they got a penalty given against them, against someone, when Fabianski came and cleared or Ariel, one of their keepers came and cleared somebody out. And it was exactly the same. And it was a last-minute leveller, I believe, just after Jared Bowen hadn't got a penalty that was a nailed-on penalty. I can't remember what game it was. I believe it ended up 2-2.
I doubt I watched it, honestly.
But anyway, so it's a clear penalty, right? It's exactly the same as the Onana one against Wolves on the opening day that didn't get given, when he comes and clears the forward out, and everyone's got, my God, that's a penalty, and it didn't get given.
Yeah, I remember that one.
This gets given against West Ham, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is a nailed-on penalty. Well, Sunil sent me 600 different still photographs trying to say that it was a foul by the forward for jumping into the keeper when the forward's going for the ball and the keeper's completely missed the ball and took the forward out. And this is my point, is that you don't really want that to be correct. You want it to go your way. And I just think, but by not acknowledging that, you're making the job of the VAR even harder. And you're actually justifying its existence by, keeping that facade going.
I 100% get your point, and I do agree. I'm just saying there are people out there like myself.
Weirdos, Juz. Weirdos.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. If VAR was like consistent, that's my problem. It's consistency. It's not going against my club, Arsenal, that I have a big problem with. And I would hope that the same calls that Arsenal gets, every other club in the league would get, except maybe Tottenham.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's possible. But anyway, so
it's not possible with the way it is. They've got a rotating group of the same shit ass referees that sit in the VAR room, I guess, because I don't know, they're old and fat and they don't feel like running 2 weekends in a row.
Sounds like regular referees to me.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. But I don't know. I mean, I've spoken about an individual panel coming in and taking over for VAR. That's something that I would like to see that's not involved in PGMOL, like somebody that's completely indifferent, unbiased. But I mean, I know that'll never happen, which is why if they put it to a fan vote, I would have voted against VAR at this point.
I think it's funny because I think if you put it to match going fans, I would guess 70% of them would vote to get rid of it. And I think if you put it to non-match going fans, you might see it the other way.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Because it kills the mood in the stadium.
Yes, it does. It does. And it affects games. It changes. We've said this so many times. It changes momentum of games. Not just with the bits they get right and wrong, but by, the 4-minute stoppage to check a goal that's going to be disallowed and all that. It changes the games. But overall, Jazz, I really don't see much changing. Like I said, I think the communication will get better, and I think that would have happened with or without this vote. It's just a natural progression is for them to figure out how to communicate it within the stands. We don't have a history of refs being mic'd up. Fortunately for Tony Adams, for anyone that's seen that video of Arsenal against Liverpool. But it's, we don't have a history of it. We don't have a history of these announcements going out in the stadium of what the foul was for and all that. But I do think that will probably end up coming in. But other than that, I don't see much changing here. I think Wolves have basically they've shot their shot, and this will probably be it now.
Yeah, I think good for them though. They voiced their displeasure. They brought it amongst all the clubs. I think there will be a slightly more stringent eye on the whole thing from here. Maybe I don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'm not British.
To be honest with you, I can't figure out what it is that they want. To be honest, because like I'm seeing some people say higher bar, some people say lower bar for intervention. And so I can't. Honestly, I can't figure out what it is that people want from it, to be honest. So that's why I don't think it will change, because I just don't think anyone even knows how they want it to change.
I've heard the same, higher bar, lower bar, and I'm really not sure either. I just wish they'd shut the fuck up until there's an egregiously bad call. That's all I want VAR to do.
Yeah. All right. Well, move on from that one. Manchester City. Here we go. So
look, am I doing it right?
That's right. Yeah, just turn away. Everyone should just turn away, really. So the tyranny of the majority, Juz. Are you surprised that the totalitarian rulers of an autocratic country do not like democracy?
Gav, I, for one, am shocked.
It is unbelievable, isn't it?
Shocked. Mate, I can't believe it.
When you allow state ownership, particularly, and I'm talking about any country. It doesn't have to be one from the Middle East. It doesn't have to be, I don't care who it is. Any country, you are going to have a problem, because they're going to want everything their own way, and then they've got the political muscle to back it up, along with the fact that they're using public funds to get what they want by who they want. But
well, you're dealing with princes and kings, people that are handed everything.
But when you allow autocratic countries, it's even worse, because they don't play by any rules except the ones that they set. And that is where we're at here with Manchester City, right?
Yeah. I mean, it really is. These are people that I don't know any of them personally, guys. Even if that's a surprise, I don't know any Saudi princes or members of the UAE royalty, but I assume these guys are used to never being told no in their lives. Yeah.
Yeah, so they just don't follow the rules. And, and they've broken all these rules. And what they're trying to do is say, we're not guilty. And at the same time, say, let's get rid of all the rules. If you're not guilty, you wouldn't want to get rid of the rules. And we need to make a distinction here. What they're suing the Premier League for isn't specifically to do with the 115 charges. It's stuff that's come in after that. It's rules that they're obviously breaking now. But this is the sue and counter sue is just the tactic of the rich and famous bully. Like it has been since the start. I mean, look at Donald Trump, right? This is very Donald Trump. This is what they do. They try and tie you up in litigation.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I could add anything else to that. This is the legal strategy. Yep.
Could this, and I think it will, backfire on them, because they've gone from the club that no one gave a fuck about to now the club that is really, really pissing people off. Could this strengthen the resolve of the other clubs and actually make the will to punish them greater than it was before?
I do think so. Yes. I think what they're doing right now, like going after the Premier League after, being busted with 115 charges, is going to make every club.
Except the ones that are with them, right? Like, except for the clubs that want to do what they want to do. So you're looking at Newcastle, and then for some random reason, Everton, who I think are just doing it out of spite, to be honest.
Well, I could even see, Saudi Arabia is like a rival faction to the UAE. Well, I could even see.
And the reports that came out today are that Newcastle are actually, although Newcastle in private back Manchester City, they publicly are unwilling to take a strong stance because they don't want to fuck everybody else off.
Yep.
Chelsea are just going to do what Chelsea want to do because they're just fucking lunatics.
Well, I mean, Chelsea's American owned now, right? Clearly,
I can't figure this out with Chelsea.
I don't know either. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that ownership group has got so many murky links to so many places that it is very difficult. Like people think Todd Bowley's the owner of Chelsea, and he's not.
Yeah, he's not.
Clear Lake own Chelsea.
He's a puppet.
Clear Lake have got their fingers in so many pies from so many places. You saw it with the way they were able to move players like Koulibaly to Saudi Arabia. They've got so many contacts in different places, and it's very unclear who controls a lot of what they do.
That's fair.
So I wouldn't say Chelsea are American-owned, but I do hope this is going to strengthen the resolve of everybody else. Now,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that the Man City fan reaction to it has been cult-like, right? But it has been the whole way along. You know, the reaction of, you just want to stop us spending money. Well, no, we're more than comfortable with you spending as much of your own money as you like. But you really shouldn't be spending the sovereign wealth of Abu Dhabi and the UAE to buy central midfielders. That is our point. You know, you're paying Erling Haaland the best part of £1 million a week after giving his dad and his agent more than you gave Borussia Dortmund for him. And all that money is coming out of it's coming out of the country of the UAE or the state of Abu Dhabi. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the problem. The problem isn't that you're spending money. The problem is, whose money are you spending? It's not yours. So if it's not yours, how can you benefit from it?
Yeah, and it's not like it's going into England, right?
No.
I mean, I don't know enough about that, but I assume it's not going into England, back into England to, grow grassroots.
I think they have spent a lot of money in and around Moss Side and the Manchester City Stadium and the training ground and all that stuff, because that is how you sports wash. Like, that's the point. You've got to try and brainwash people, and they have successfully brainwashed these Man City fans. Absolutely successfully, because you look at the tweets and they are unhinged. They are so detached from reality. It again reminds me of Donald Trump supporters, right? Like, it doesn't matter how mad, how bad,
it's a cult,
how ridiculous. Yeah, they're just going to follow, and that is what this is with Man City. And to be honest, the thing with Man City, right? I've said before, I don't think a one-season punishment is enough. I think they should be out of the Football League entirely and have to start again. If not, if you only want to relegate in one division, I think, okay, fine, but they shouldn't be allowed back in the Premier League for 5 or 10 years. You want to carry on competing in the Championship? Fine, go for it, but you ain't getting promoted. I think it needs to be stronger and more than that. And the thing with this is how you tell how ridiculous all this is. If they did get thrown down to non-league, within 3 years, everyone would forget this entire era. You wouldn't even remember that team existed, Manchester City. You wouldn't miss them. You would not. They've got no lasting legacy, and that shows you how fake this all is.
I mean, and that's the thing, right? I mean, it is. It's super fake. Rival fans are even like, well, I'm pulling for City.
It's the whole thing. Like, you're employing a convicted drug cheat as your manager. Because what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? It is just unbelievable, that club from top to bottom. Guardiola comes out and defends him. Well, of course he does. The man's a fucking drug cheat. Of course he defends him. This is him all over. He's got no problem with cheating. He just don't like getting caught.
Yeah, Gaff. I mean, yeah, that's it, mate. I mean, it the whole thing is like insane, and I mean, you can just tell. I mean, you have rival fans that are like, "Oh, I hope City beats you, because if City wins, I don't care."
Yeah. Do you think that's going to change now, though? I think there's a chance that after this, the people that were backing Man City to win everything, and there is 10% less effort going. Make no mistake, there is. Look at West Ham fans celebrating and winning the league on the last day of the season. I do hope that this changes the attitude towards them, if nothing else.
I really hope so. Like, I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan through and through. I was pulling for Liverpool in those tight years, just because they at least do it mostly right. I know no top club does everything right, but and I look back at like Tottenham's behavior in the City game and how like embarrassing that was. No even disrespect to Tottenham fans. I'm just like laying it out, but I do hope things change from here. I hope City puts a huge target on their back and everybody City becomes like a fucking derby for everybody.
Yeah, that would definitely be nice. Well, this one should be over quick. I believe the hearing on this is in a couple of weeks' time, and the decision will come within a couple of weeks of that. I do think there is a non-zero chance that City actually win, and if they do, then I think all this is over. Basically, I think if City win this, it's pretty much the end of the Premier League. As we know it, I think they're going to turn a lot of fans off to it too. I think the more likely option is that the UK courts decide to keep the status quo. I think it would be a very unpopular decision, to say the least, for a UK court to do that. We are in an election year. I think the government are going to be less likely to meddle than they would
I was
have
just
had
going to
this
say
been
that.
2 years ago, because they're going out anyway. So we'll see how this one plays out. We'll keep our eye on it. And of course, we have the big 115 charges to answer for. I think October or November time is when the hearing is. Obviously, it's going to be a while after that. So we'll
Yes,
see how this
sir.
one goes. But hopefully, they'll get what's coming to them. Jazz, let's come back in the second half and we'll look a little bit at the overall league season and just pick out a few bits that caught our attention. So, all right, mate, I will see you on the other side of the break.
All right.
Hey guys, just a couple of quick halftime messages for you. Firstly, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us reach a wider audience, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Secondly, we're on all the social media platforms as the NN Pod. We're really trying to build a strong Gooner community. So next time you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, look us up, give us a like or a follow, send us a message, interact with other listeners, or just have a look around. Thanks for listening from myself, Paz, and Jazz. We really appreciate it. Welcome back into the Non-Negotiables podcast. This is part 2. Jazz, we're going to take a little look at the season, how it unfolded, and maybe compare it to some of our predictions, which are always spot on, 100% accurate.
Always.
Yeah, it turns out we don't have Mystic Meg on the staff. So, just let's start at the bottom. Let's, as Drake would say.
Okay.
So the 3 promoted teams went straight back down: Sheffield United, Burnley, and Luton. Sheffield United had a historically bad season. They managed to concede 104 goals. So congratulations to them for that. That's pretty amazing. All 3 of us had Sheffield United and Luton going down. None of us had Burnley going down. Burnley were obviously pretty poor, right? I mean, they ended on 24 points, but part of that was with a win on the last game of the season that didn't really mean anything. There's not really many surprises there, though, is there? I know Pass did pick Burnley for mid-table, but I think from the very start of the season, we all saw that those 3 teams were pretty much doomed.
I think Burnley is a not a rare case, because I feel like the media does it every year, but they really gassed him up. With like Vincent Kompany being the manager, and he's a disciple of Pep, and look how good Arsenal is, and blah blah blah. And I don't blame anybody for like falling for that. Even I thought they would be, I don't know, maybe 12th or something. But yeah, it's tough, and I'm not surprised they ended up relegated. What I am surprised about is Company getting the Bayern Munich job, but that's another episode.
Yeah, that was crazy, him getting that job. I mean, and this is the thing, right? So I've had this debate with Bernard Whammer all summer about McKenna signing a new contract to Ipswich versus Maresca walking out on Leicester to join Chelsea. My view on this is always the same. For managers, these things go well until it doesn't, and you lose that sparkle pretty quick when it goes bad. Vincent Kompany had a playing career that was glittering, and that's what he was able to fall back on and get that Bayern Munich job. Like there is no way if Edwards, the Luton manager, Edwards, if it was him, Bayern Munich are not looking at Rob Edwards, even though he did a better job than Vincent Kompany this year. But Kompany got that job because of his playing career, right?
Yeah, I'd say it's mostly that, and then also his ties to Pep and City.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I would say, yeah.
yeah. So this was my point really on McKenna. McKenna apparently maybe had a chance at the Man U job. I personally think if that is true, and we don't know that that's true, but if it is, he's mad to stay, because if Ipswich go down next year on 24 points, there ain't no big club looking at him. It's done. He's probably going to end up the rest of his career moving around teams like Gillingham and Oxford.
Yeah, it's a really weird one, Gav. It's like you don't want to jump too big too soon. You know, like I mean, we're looking at Potter now, who is I mean, pariah might be.
But have you seen this morning though? That apparently there's talk that he might be going back to Brighton.
No, I've not seen that yet. No,
Yeah, I read that this morning that there was talk of him going back to Brighton.
Well, that would be a smart move for Brighton, I think, if De Zerbi goes to a bigger club.
But see, this is my point though. Potter jumped from Brighton, right? Who were in an upcycle, and he jumped and went to Chelsea, and it didn't work at Chelsea. But since he left Chelsea, he's been offered the job at Ajax, and he's probably going to end up back at Brighton, who are in 11th spot. Had he waited, I mean, we both agreed that we thought Brighton, me and you both said we thought Brighton would be somewhere between 10th and 15th this season, right? And they ended up 11th. So we were spot on. They were maybe a little bit better than I thought they were going to be. I think I probably had them a little bit lower than you. But I don't think that if Brighton plummet after that, he just doesn't get the same chances he does, whereas if he goes to Chelsea and he fails at Chelsea. I just think it's accepted that maybe you can fail at Chelsea, whereas if you fail at one of these smaller clubs, you're only flavour of the month for a month, right? Like that's why it's the flavour of the month. I think once all these teams have, when they come up, they have upcycles and they all end, right? We've seen it. Sheffield United a few years ago finished 6th. Next season, they got relegated. We've seen so many clubs labelled the perfect club. We've seen it with Derby. We've seen it with all these clubs that have come up, been the perfect club. Brentford before, they almost went down this year. When you're on that upcycle, I think as a manager, you have to jump at that point, because if you don't, that upcycle will end for all these clubs. It will end. And then you are toast at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, that a lot of people don't realize, that you've got maybe one chance in your career to jump. And if you don't take it, it may never come again. So, Gav, I think that's a very poignant point. Can I say that?
Yeah, I think so.
And I think there's a lot of respect there. I think a good example is Andre Villas-Boas.
Yep.
Who, sure, he got a job at Tottenham after, but now he's just been bouncing around like lower leagues and Marseille and whatnot. And if he wouldn't have jumped when he did, I don't think he would have ever found himself at clubs like Chelsea or Tottenham, or maybe not even Marseille. He'd have probably stayed in his own country.
Yeah. So it is about going at the right time, I think.
At the right time,
I think that's just the way it is. So I don't blame Maresca for making that jump. The other thing is that people are forgetting that Leicester have Premier League charges hanging over their heads, so they could start next season on -10.
I forget that too.
Yeah, everyone forgets
tell me
that.
about it.
So, they basically broke the same rules that Forest and Everton broke, and got points deductions for. The difference is that they got relegated while they were breaking those rules. So obviously the Premier League can't enforce sanctions while they're in the Championship, but now they're back in the Premier League. The Premier League are now going to sanction them. So they probably are going to start on some sort of point deduction next year. We don't know what it is yet. So I don't blame Maresca for jumping at all. I think it was a pretty sensible move. I don't know that I saw the bottom 3 being as bad as they were, though. I mean, you look at it, we always used to say 40 points keeps you up. 27 points would have been enough to stay up last season. that's historically bad. It can't be that
Oh
bad
yeah,
again, right?
that's really, really bad. Yeah, I'm just looking at the table now, the
I mean, and
bottom.
when you think the
Um,
team just above them, they finished 6 points off of Forest, who had points deducted.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, even 16th is Brentford with 39. They don't
Yeah,
even have.
so it's 13 point gap.
Yeah.
So that's
So
that's
yeah,
poor.
this was kind of a historically bottom heavy Premier League for sure. I mean, in even some of your closer guys like Everton, Wolves, just in recent history. Um, I mean, West Ham. I know they finished ninth, but um, I feel like all those clubs kind of underperformed still. You know, it was a very weak Premier League,
Yeah, I think
except
yeah,
the top.
I think you're right. It was a pretty weak league. It was very top heavy this year. I think the top three teams
Yep.
were very good. I mean, and the perfect example is looking at the fight for fourth, where nobody wanted to win it. You know, Spurs and Villa were both at the end stumbling over the line. I mean, Jesus Christ, Villa got beat 5-0 at Palace on the last day. They After they beat us, I think they only won one game for the rest of the season, which is crazy. I mean, none of us had. I had
Wow, I
Villa to
think you're right.
finish.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had Villa to finish in the top six. We all had Man United in fourth, and Man United were absolutely terrible. But
they
they
were
really,
abject all
yeah,
season.
they were
Yep.
awful. And it just happened that towards the end, I think their results caught up with their performances. At the start of the season, they were winning games that they didn't really deserve to be in, and it caught
Yep.
them at the end of the season, I think, and they obviously ended up falling right back down into eighth place. Um, Jazz, do you see they still haven't made a decision on Ten Hag, which is kind of crazy? Have you got any feeling which way that's going to go? Because I'm starting to wonder if they're just going to keep him.
Mate, I'd keep him if I was them. I would.
I mean, I
I
don't
like
know
Ten
what
Hag.
else they can do at this point, right? Like, who else is left to go and get?
Yeah, I mean, if they could bring in someone like Zidane or even Ancelotti, but they can't, mate. Um, who's that? I'm struggling with his name right now.
This reminds
Oh,
me of last
Allegri.
summer's one with
Allegri.
Lopetegui.
Allegri.
Oh, Allegri.
Yeah. Yeah, he just left Juventus.
Yeah.
That may not be a bad call for United, but I don't think they can do any better than Ten Hag right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's going to. I think he's going to probably stick there. I mean, we all basically had them in fourth, and they were never. I know at one point they looked like they might have been in the running for it, but with their performances, you knew that they were never really in the running for it. Um, Chelsea, I had Chelsea to struggle really badly, and to be fair, for the first few months of the season, they did struggle really badly
They
results
did.
wise.
Yeah.
I think they were playing a little bit better maybe than the results they were getting, but they put it together at the end and they got up into sixth. For next season, Charles, do you see Chelsea being that fourth team? Because I mean, I think the top three will probably stay as the top three, but at this point, and this isn't the season preview. Obviously, we're going to do that closer to the season when the summer transfer business is out of the way. But as it stands right now, do you think Chelsea are the ones who are probably going to take that fourth spot as it stands?
Man, that's a really good question, Gaff. I think it's going to be between Chelsea, Tottenham, and Villa.
Gee, I think Villa are
Um,
going to fall away. I don't think Villa are going to be up there next year. And
see,
like I said, I did pick them to be in the top six this year. I don't think they'll be there next year. I think they'll fall
what if
away.
what if they got Smith Rowe?
I think they'd need more than that. I think they need more than that, Villa. I don't see it with the Champions League as well. I can't see it. And we know what happens with
That's
Emery
a good
teams,
point.
right?
That's a good
They
point.
fall
Yeah.
away. They were already terrible away this season, other than fucking winning at ours. But
Yeah.
they were already terrible away this season. I don't see them. I'm telling you now, I don't see them being in the top six next season.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I don't know enough about Chelsea's Maresca. I
Yeah.
don't know enough about him to really speak to that, but I think Chelsea's got a lot of good young potential that if they start clicking, and it seemed like they did after, I don't know, or like around February. I think you might be right. I think they're going to be the ones that touch on that. Tottenham is so odd. Like, and this isn't even rivalry talk, just unbiased. I don't know.
They are a bizarre team. They are a bizarre
Right?
team, and I
Yeah,
think they're gonna, they'll probably be similar to this year, right? I mean, they'll probably
that's
end
what I'm
up
thinking.
fifth, sixth, seventh, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
They'll
It's
win
not
some
like they
games
have.
they shouldn't win. They'll lose some games they should win. They'll score a lot of
Yep.
goals. They'll concede a lot of goals.
Yeah, and it's not like they have money to drop on like a 100 million problem area.
Yeah, well, I
Um,
don't see who they can attract at this point in that category. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not where they're shopping. And there's not a lot of players of that ilk available right now, right? Like, there's no Declan Rice available this summer. So, and not that they would be in the market for that sort of player, but do you know what I mean? Like, they're just not around. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't see much of a different season from them next year than they had this year.
I think
Outside of,
the end for Ange too,
I
is
mean,
gonna
yeah,
it's gonna
let's go
affect him
into
at
that
least a
actually,
little bit.
because yeah, he seems like a man on the brink, doesn't he? I mean,
He
that
does.
that night that night he's going to have long lasting repercussions there by the look of
Yeah,
it.
definitely. Yeah, I definitely I think so. And oh mate, I don't know. I mean,
I think if he had the chance
like
to
for
jump
him,
ship this summer, I think he'd do it. I think if Liverpool, I think if Liverpool hadn't have moved so early on Slot, I think there is a chance that he would have ended up at Liverpool.
that's interesting. Yeah, and I think he would have taken that job
Oh,
100%.
100%. 100%
Yeah,
he'd jump on it.
100%.
If that actually might end up being the option for Man United if they decide to get rid of Ten Hag.
Yep.
Because, I mean, Angie's still well thought of in football circles. I mean, to me, at the end of the day, he's the ex-Celtic manager. He's not done anything that I can see that should put him in line for these big jobs. But apparently he is in line. But if Man United move for him, I think he'd jump in a second.
I do too. And honestly, I get where you're coming from. I think his club let him down more than he let his club down.
Yeah, I can see that, and he seems like an affable guy. And to be honest, maybe that is what Man United need: someone to come in and be like Ten Hag. Ten Hag just comes across a dick, right? Like
He
he's
is.
absolutely he's got this he's got the attitude of Jose Mourinho without the showing the ability to win. So, I mean, and I know they fluked an FA Cup, but that's, but he's not, they're not challenging for titles with him there. But yet he seems to think that he's the one almighty God. So maybe a move to a manager like Postecoglou, who seems to be more of a mate to the players, might actually be a better move for them.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like Ten Hag. I followed his, most of his career and stuff like that. I would have loved him at Arsenal. Um, but yeah, he's not proven great in the Premier League so far. I think United need more of a manager like Ange. I think it's a better fit. Where I think Ten Hag would probably do really well at Tottenham.
That's, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. He seems like a manager who thinks he should win, which is not a manager that's going to do well at Tottenham. But I don't know. It's definitely, but it's not though, is it? Like, Mourinho couldn't win there, Conte couldn't win there. You're not going to win at Tottenham. So if he's there thinking that he's the bee's knees and he should be winning things all the time, that's not the club for him. I don't know what sort of manager you get in there. If they aren't going to accept what they are, then I don't think any manager is ever going to be able to do anything there, because they have to accept what they are before they can get a manager that they like. Because I saw the fans were turning on Postecoglou as much as he was turning on the club. So I don't think he's going to last till the end of next season there. Put it that way. Whether he,
Yeah, I'm feeling the same
I
way,
don't
mate.
know whether he walks or whether he's pushed, but if they have a bad start to next season, I think he's worn out a lot of the goodwill he had with the fans. I think that night, I said to you in Paz before it happened, that night could tear them apart. And I think that's exactly what's happened. I think the damage that they have done with that night, I think it's irreparable with Ange. I don't see how it can possibly work now, because he's seen what that club are and he doesn't like it. and that club have seen what he is, and they don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, they showed they're not a serious club, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's bottom line. Like,
yeah, and he's a manager that whatever you think of him, and whatever you think his abilities are, he wants to win, and I think he knows that he's not at a club that can do that. So,
yeah,
I mean, I
it's
just
not
think
a good
that's
fit at this point.
yeah. So I think that's irreparable damage there.
Yeah.
I think the overachievers of this year, if you take Villa out of it, are Crystal Palace, and it only happened obviously after they sacked Hodgson.
Yep.
You know, fair play to Pass, who picked Hodgson the first manager sacked. He wasn't the first manager sacked, obviously. The Paul Heckingbottom from Sheffield United was the first manager sacked. But Hodgson was second or third, I think, that went. And me and you both had managers that were in the job at the end of the season. You had Moyes, who's obviously gone now, and I had Marco Silva, who's still going to be at Fulham at the start of next year. So, but
that's crazy.
yeah,
Still.
but they were, Palace after Hodgson went, they picked up some brilliant results. They had some fantastic performances. Would you agree with that? You think Palace probably are the biggest? I don't want to say overachievers because I don't think 10th is particularly out of their reach, but they certainly had the best run towards the end of the season, right?
Yeah, no, they absolutely did. I'm looking at their record right now. I thought they were really impressive. I think are you just talking about this last season, or can I go into next? Because
go into next season, because I mean we want to talk about that because it looks like they're probably going to lose a couple of players, which is going to affect them.
Eze and Olise probably are gone,
and I think they're going to
your boy.
I think Adam Walton is going to be very much in demand. It looks like he's probably going to end up with some game time at the Euros. I think he's going to be very much in demand. I actually would really like him at ours. My worry is that I don't know that he's ready to start for us. And I just kind of think whoever we bring in that position should be ready to start for us.
I think it'll be United. He'll replace Casemiro.
I think they'd be mad not to go for him. I think he's perfect for them. I think they should go for him and they should go for Elise. I think it would be perfect for them. So I think
I like Eze too.
Yeah,
if they start losing a goal assist, machine, but he's a great player.
Yeah, so if they lose a couple of them, that's going to open up a couple of doors as well. You mentioned Smith Rowe earlier on with Villa. I don't think Smith Rowe is going to go to Villa, but I do think Palace could be an option if Eze or Olise leave. I think that opens a very, very Smith Rowe shaped hole there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think just personally, and let me know what you think as an Englishman, but I'd love to see him end up at Fulham. Honestly, I have like no ill will towards the club. He can stay in London. Fulham seems.
I agree, and I think the same about Palace too. I've got nothing against Palace.
Yeah.
So if he went there, and it's for me with Smith Rowe, we said this last week that it's all his next move is going to be very important to him, right? He needs to go somewhere where he's going to be the main man, and you're going to build around him. I think if Elise and Eze go, then I think he would have a chance to go to Crystal Palace and be the man and really build himself up. I think the same thing is true at Fulham with Willian going. I mean, the other thing is where does he want to play? Right? Does he want to play coming off the left, which I still think is his best position? Or does he want to play as a number 10, which I don't think is a position that really exists in the game anymore? But maybe would have the freedom to do that at one of them clubs where perhaps you don't have to win 25, 30 games a season. So I think that's going to come into it too. Where are the gaps in these teams? Where are you gonna play? But I would be happy with him going to either one of them teams. He would help either one of them teams. And I think Palace have got, if Palace they can't sell everybody, right? I think that's the key. You can't sell everyone. You can't sell Mark Gahey. You can't sell Elise. You can't sell Eze. You can't sell Walton. You can't sell them all in the same window. You can survive one, maybe two, if you get the recruitment spot on, but you can't sell all four.
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, those are like their biggest players. It would be a disaster, and sorry, it's my dog chewing on a squeaky toy. My apologies. But yeah, they cannot do that, and
Daddy, want to help me with something?
Kieran, I'm recording right now. I'm so sorry.
No, you're right. Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you're saying. They can't do that. Not if they want to kick on, and they've got a chance to kick on. I think if they got rid of one of them players, recruited well, and kicked on again, I think they would have a chance because every year someone is going to break into that top 7 that you don't see coming. Right? It's very rare that what you think is the top 7 is going to be the top 7, and I think Palace have definitely got a chance of doing that.
Yeah, and especially both of them being like London clubs, they're going to have a huge array of great youth that they're going to be able to promote as well. I mean, not even talking about just Premier League money and how silly it is. They could probably buy the best player from Lyon, and he'd be okay to sign for Palace or Fulham. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think at this point as well, I need to give a little bit of an apology to Iraola and Bournemouth because I had them really, really struggling and they played some really good football at times this season. I thought they were really good to watch. I think Iraola turned out to be a very good manager, which I didn't really see coming because of his style. I didn't think it would go well as a more underdog team in the Premier League. But Judge, I think it worked, right?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think he did quite well. I liked him.
It's going to be interesting to see if he moves on. I thought he might have gone to West Ham when West Ham got rid of Moyes. Eventually, they obviously opted for Julen Lopetegui, who
Yep.
I think might be all right there next year. Actually, I think West Ham might do all right next year.
I think it's crazy, mate. He might be the best example of like falling upwards throughout his career.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know like West Ham is, but I mean, it's still in the Premier League, and he's still like a top coach, and I mean, I think they'll do well with that strategy. I think what happens with Paqueta is going to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you now, I don't see any way Paqueta plays next year at all. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the ban is lifetime. I definitely think it's going to be multiple seasons. I think Paqueta at West Ham is done, and I don't think West Ham are going to get anything for him, and that is a massive blow.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, by all reports, he was one of City's top targets as well. So I guess
well, we now know why they signed that shit player from Wolves last summer, right? Because it would have been Paqueta, but they knew this was coming.
Nunez.
Yeah, it would have been Paqueta, but they knew this was coming. That's why they pulled out.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually. Some of the bets he made, just I know we're not but they were insane, mate. He put like £6 bets on himself to get booked.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And the thing is, I've seen people, again, mainly West Ham fans, saying, "Oh, well, he got booked. What difference does it make?" Anything you do influences a game. You cannot bet on yourself and influence a game. It doesn't matter how much the bet is. It doesn't matter what the bet is. You cannot do it. This should be a lifetime ban from football. I'm telling you, that's what it should be. It should be a lifetime ban. But then Pep Guardiola should also have a lifetime ban from football for being a drugs cheat, and he's allowed to manage a financially dope team in the Premier League, which is ridiculous. He should never be allowed in football. And I think Paqueta is the same thing. I do not think Paqueta should be allowed back into football.
No, mate, I think this is way more so a problem. Like, I mean, when you look at his bets versus like Tony's bets, Tony's looks just like straight gambling addiction. Paqueta's is gambling addiction as well, obviously, but
I don't know. Is it though? Because Paqueta seems more like I'm going to win a bet rather than I need to make a bet. Like Tony wasn't betting on himself to get booked.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. This one seems more. I don't know. I mean, it obviously
nefarious, right? Nefarious is the word you're looking for, right? That's what it looks like.
That's a perfect word. Yep. And because he obviously wasn't looking to get rich off a £6 bet to get booked. But yeah, it does. It looks a lot more sinister to have.
It does kind of look like, with the amount that he bet, though, it's almost like this is what you would do to stay under the radar. Do you know what I mean? Like, he can't go bet 100 grand on himself to get booked because everyone's going to notice that. Everyone's going to see it. So the bets, I think the fact that it is these small amounts, I think that makes it look worse because I think it makes it look like you've tried to hide it. Because you're hoping no one's going to notice, right? Who's going to notice a £6 bet being put on someone to get booked?
I mean, yeah, that's actually a really good point. I hadn't really considered it like that. But yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, it does look like that's more troublesome.
Yeah, I really think it is. Just underachievers in the league this year. I thought Brentford would struggle. I think you said you thought Brentford would struggle as well, and they really did. And in another year, I think they would have been in trouble. Next year, I think there's a good chance that they might be in trouble. I don't know how much of it depends on what happens with Tony, but I think we all kind of know, right? Tony's going to be off this summer.
I think so.
I don't know. He's just got Spurs written all over him to me. He has had for a while. That's where I can just see him ending up. There's also rumours, I believe Mbuemo is being linked with Newcastle now as well. I think that Brentford
I
are
can
in
see that.
real trouble this year.
Yeah, I think so. And it is kind of a shame because I'm no Brentford fan or anything, but I do like the way they operate. I think it's pretty respectable, but then again they don't have a youth academy, right?
No, they got rid of it. I mean, the thing is,
Yep.
right, and we said this with the way Chelsea were operating when I picked them to be outside of the top 8, I think Chelsea, because I said you
Mhm.
just can't make all these gambles on players and have them all come off, and then when the ones eventually your luck runs out. If you keep buying these players and sell them, eventually you're going to get a batch that do not work out, which is where we're coming to with Brighton, I think. You have runs of luck with signings and you have runs of bad luck, and I think with Brentford, I just think that luck is kind of running out now, and the players that they were unearthing and have moved on or are moving on, people like David Raya. Now you got Ivan Toney and Buemo is going to be going. They've moved a lot of these players on, and I just think now we're at the point where the chickens are going to come home to roost for them. It was a good run. It was a spectacularly successful policy, but it's probably run its course.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see what they do with the 27 million we owe them for David Raya, and what players they bring in from like French League 3, but I mean, they could
Yeah, I mean the
still,
statsmen basically have got to earn their corn again, right?
right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could still, unearth some gems, and it might be the next player we're paying, 60 million for next summer.
Yeah.
Brentford is weird like that. One club I'm more interested in, on your take, is Forest, actually. When we're talking about
Yeah,
overachievers.
so
So you picked them to go down, right?
I did pick them to go down, yeah. And they were obviously very, very close to going down. I
Yep.
just think they're utterly, utterly crazy as a club, and I don't think that's going to change as long. Is it Marinakis, their owner?
Yep.
As long
Yep.
as he's the owner there, I don't think that's going to change. I think that they're crazy. I think he's the sort of guy. He just shoots his shot, right? Like he will go and buy 15 new players again in the summer to try and
Yep.
win the league. Like, and that's how he is. And I get why that can be fun and appealing for people, but I think that in the Premier League, that sort of recklessness is what sends you down. I will probably have them in my free to go down again next season. And if they're not, they're going to be pretty close. I don't see, I don't know. I don't see how this works the way Forest operate.
Mate, he's living all our FIFA career
Yeah.
mode dreams.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it.
he is.
Yeah, he's buying all these players and just, hoping
Yeah.
it works. And
Yeah. And they didn't keep Nuno Tavares.
yeah, they didn't keep Nuno Tavares, those bastards. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no. So I don't. I think they're going to go down.
They had Gio Reyna too, for
Yeah,
America.
they took him on loan. He hardly
Yep.
played.
Hardly played. Yep.
So is Nuno still there, or did they replace him? I can't even remember who their manager is now. They go through so many people so often.
God, yeah, I can't
that
remember either.
I'm not even sure. And the other team that I actually picked to be the surprise of the season to do better than expected was Everton, which I think in a way you can say that they were, because obviously the points they had deducted have kind of put them in a little bit of a false league position. but they, I've got to be honest with you. I'm at the point now where I just want to see Everton go down. I'm sick of I'm sick of the cheating.
Yeah, they're
And
shit.
then the complaining about it. Well, we broke the rules, but we broke the rules, but why ain't you punishing Man City? Man City should be punished. So then we go to punish Man City, and now they're siding with Man City. It's like it is. I just think they're nuts. I'm so glad that Usmanov never bought us. So glad.
Same. That was the one point I was going to make. I'm so glad we dodged that bullet, mate. Because
And we really did dodge a bullet with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's so bad. I mean, I respect that they're, legendary and, well, and,
They're traditionally a big club.
Yeah, traditionally a big club. Yep. And in the second half of the Merseyside Derby, and there's really no one else, other than Liverpool. But man, they are shit, aren't they? Like, I feel like Everton's just been.
They are, and I don't want Amadou Onana either.
I don't either.
Linked again today, from what I understand, how I see it, I think this is his agent contacting clubs rather than clubs contacting Everton. That is how I understand the situation. I don't think that Arsenal have made contact with him per se. They definitely haven't made contact with Everton, but his agent is trying to get him out of there, and he's just basically calling around everywhere. But he's a very inconsistent player. I don't think there'd be too many Everton fans that would be upset to see him move on massive money. So he's a player that I really don't want.
I honestly, I don't even get like the media links. I don't feel like he'd be. I mean, there are games where he's surprised me with some technical ability, but overall, he's not. He's damn near a destroyer that can play a pass sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think he works for us. I really don't. So just the top end of the table, I guess the very top, we'll just touch on it briefly. Obviously, we fell a little bit short in the title race. We won 16 of the last 18 games, still couldn't catch Man City. Liverpool did well to hang in there for a while. I think they maybe overachieved a little bit. Slots in there now. I still think Liverpool will be third next year, but I think they might be a little bit further off the pace. I don't see them being involved in a title race next year, unless something happens with City that we don't see soon, and then there usually is a title race. You know what I mean? Like, things happen and it propels clubs. I think you get pushed, right? Like, I don't think we get 89 points if City aren't getting 91, but I don't think City get 91 points if we're not getting 89. I think you push each other, and I think that's exactly kind of what happened at the top this year.
Yeah, Liverpool will be one to watch. I think Slot's a good manager. But they've got some holes. I think they're losing Thiago. They're losing. I wish I had it in front of me. Sorry, I know that's
no. There's a few. Thiago is going. Matip is going.
Matip. Yep, that's another one. And you got Van Dijk. He's another year older, and
Salah too. And Klopp obviously is the big. Klopp obviously is the big one that's gone. So they're going to be interesting to watch over the next year to see what they do. Whether Slot's a good manager or not, he's got to get used to the Premier League. It's obviously going to be a little bit different for him. So I do think they're still the best team.
I'm sure Gakpo can carry him.
Yeah, exactly. I reckon they might end up just taking him out back and shooting him. But I think they'll be. I just think next year they'll be closer to fourth than second.
Me too. Yeah, I do too. My eye right now is on Chelsea, to be honest. As like I think it'll be City and Arsenal, no doubt 1 and 2, regardless of who finishes where. But my eye's been on Chelsea.
Yeah, I think that's understandable. I think they do look like the biggest threat at the minute, and they're going to buy again, which might be to their detriment. I mean, they might go out and buy another 7 players and completely disrupt the squad again. So you never know with them. We're going to have to see how this works out. It was a good title race this year, though. Obviously, gutted to have missed out on it so late, but we pushed them close. We did everything that we could basically do.
Of course.
Let's hope some of these charges stick now, and we can maybe go at it on a bit of a more level playing field.
Yes, sir. Hopefully, mate. Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, mate. All right. Well, thanks for coming on tonight. Enjoyed that chat. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, we'll be able to get Paz on and do the player ratings, get that one out of the way. And then we'll be back with some of our shorter transfer pods, where we'll just wrap up what's going on. So thank you, mate. Good night.
Perfect.
And everybody out there, good night.
Good night.